Hey everyone, I hope you are doing great. Before we start, I would ask you to like and subscribe the video. Also, please comment down below what you think about the story. Without further ado, let's start. AITA for refusing to let it go after my parents falsely accused my brother of stealing from their house? Alright, so I'm just gonna put it all out there because I'm so fucking angry I can barely think straight. I have an older half-brother, Rory. He's 24, I'm 15. We share the same dad, but I live with my mom and stepdad. Rory comes around a lot, takes me out, spends time with me. He's basically the only one in my life who treats me like I actually matter instead of some kid they have to tolerate. My stepdad doesn't like him, never has, and my mom just goes along with whatever he says to keep the peace. A few months ago, some shit got stolen from the house. Jewelry, my stepdad's fancy watches, some cash. Immediately, they decide Rory did it. Just like that. No proof, no logic, nothing. Rory had literally picked me up from the front of the house that day. We didn't even go inside. But they weren't hearing it. They called him a liar, said I was covering for him, and banned me from seeing him. When I refused to back down, I got grounded. They called the cops, but guess what? The police didn't even list Rory as a suspect, probably because they actually do investigations instead of just deciding someone's guilty because they don't like them. But my stepdad wouldn't let it go. He kept running his mouth, calling Rory a thief, a piece of shit, saying how blood doesn't mean anything when someone's got no morals. I stopped talking to them outside of basic communication. You want me to set the table? Fine. Need me to do my chores? Done. But anything past that? No. Not interested in having a conversation with people who think the one person who gives a damn about me is a criminal. Then 2 weeks ago, everything came crashing down. My stepdad's nephew, his fucking nephew, got caught robbing another relative's house. They had cameras. And guess what? When the cops got involved, he broke down and confessed. Yeah, he took my stepdad's stuff too, had copied a key without anyone noticing and was just waltzing in when no one was home. So, not Rory. Not that my stepdad wanted to admit he was wrong. I told my mom he owed Rory an apology. She agreed, said she'd talk to him. But my stepdad? He straight up refused. Told me it was time to move on and stop making problems where there don't need to be any. Are you fucking kidding me? He slandered my brother, banned me from seeing him, treated me like a liar, and now that he's wrong, I'm just supposed to act like nothing happened? I told him if he wanted to move on, he could start by apologizing. Otherwise, I wasn't moving shit. That's when things really blew up. Later that day, I was sitting at the kitchen table just eating a sandwich, minding my own business. My stepdad walked in looking for something. He opened a drawer, then another, moving stuff around like he was getting frustrated. I didn't think much of it at first. Then he checked the counter, looked around the living room, and walked back to the kitchen. Where the hell are my sunglasses? No idea. I swear, they were right here. You sure someone didn't steal them? You know, since that seems to be your first conclusion when you can't find something. That's not funny. I thought it was hilarious. I'm not playing this game with you. You accused my brother of stealing from us with no proof. Now you lost your sunglasses, and I think it's only fair we consider all possibilities. That's enough. You don't like it, do you? Someone throwing out baseless accusations like they're facts. I'm not doing this. You sure? I asked. Or are you just scared I might be right? He left without another word. About an hour later, my mom came into my room. She sat on my bed looking at me like she was trying to figure out what to say. I didn't say anything, just waited. You need to stop, she finally said. Stop what? This attitude. You're pushing it too far. Too far? I know you're upset, I get it, but you can't keep holding this over our heads. We made a mistake and now we know the truth. What more do you want? An apology. I told you I'm happy to apologize, but your stepdad won't. Yeah, I got that part. You can't control what other people do. And neither can you. I don't want this to ruin our family. Our family? Yes, she said. Our family. The same family that kicked me out because I wouldn't let you guys shit on my brother? That's not what happened. It's exactly what happened, I said. You let him ban me from seeing Rory over something he didn't even do. You grounded me for defending him. And now when it turns out I was right, you just want me to pretend like none of it ever happened? We're trying to move on, she said. No, you're trying to pretend it never happened, I corrected. There's a difference. I just don't want this to keep going. Then tell him to apologize. She walked out without saying another word. Later that night, my stepdad was back. He'd found his sunglasses in his truck where he left them. I was in the living room when he walked in. He barely looked at me. You find them? I asked. He didn't answer. Where were they? Still nothing. Let me guess, I said. Someone broke into your truck, took them, and then decided to put them back just to mess with you? You need to watch your mouth. Or what? You think you can just say whatever the hell you want? I think I can point out hypocrisy when I see it, I said. I'm not gonna let you sit here and act like some little punk in my house. Oh, it's your house now? Yes. My house, my rules. That's funny, because last I checked, this was my mom's house too, and she doesn't seem to have any rules about accusing innocent people of crimes. You don't know when to quit, and you don't know how to admit when you're wrong. He turned to my mom, who had been standing in the kitchen pretending she wasn't listening. You're really gonna let him talk to me like this? Both of you, stop it. Both of us. I wasn't the one who ruined a relationship over bullshit. You need to let it go. Not until he apologizes. That's never gonna happen. Then I guess we have a problem. He looked at me for a long moment. Then he turned to my mom. Either he drops this, or I'm done dealing with it. Then stop dealing with it. What? If you don't like being reminded of what you did, then leave, or kick me out again. But I'm not letting this go. He didn't say anything, just stood there looking at me like he was trying to decide if I was serious. Then without another word, he walked away. I turned to my mom. That's the guy you're defending. She didn't answer. I sat on the curb outside my house with my backpack, waiting. I hadn't even texted Rory until I was already out the door. I knew he'd come. His car pulled up fast and he barely had it in park before I opened the door and got in. He didn't ask anything, just looked at me for a second, then started driving. We were a few streets away before he finally said, "All right, what happened?" "Stepdad kicked me out." That got his attention. He what? Told me to go stay with my criminal brother if I love him so much. Rory gripped the wheel tighter. He didn't say anything for a minute, just drove. You tell Mom? She watched it happen. And? Didn't do a damn thing. Unbelievable. We didn't talk for a while. He just drove, not in any particular direction, just driving like he needed to think. Eventually he said, "You sure about this?" I nodded. "All right," he said, "then you're staying with me." Rory's apartment wasn't much. One bedroom, a couch that looked like he pulled it off the side of the road, and a kitchen that barely had enough space to turn around in. But it was quiet. It was safe. That was enough. He gave me a blanket. "You get the couch." "Thanks." "Don't thank me yet," he said. "I don't cook, I don't clean up after people, and you're not turning this place into a teenage disaster zone." Noted. "What's your plan?" "No clue. Mom gonna come looking for you?" "She'll call, she won't do anything." "And stepdick?" "Couldn't care less." "I'd love to see him try to make you come back." "Same." That was the last thing we said about it that night. The next morning, I woke up to Rory throwing a pillow at my head. "Get up." "Why?" "Because you're not turning into some sad sack who sleeps all day." "What time is it?" "Too late for you to still be in bed." I looked at the clock. It was barely past 8. "You're a psychopath." He threw another pillow at me. I got up. Around noon, my mom called. I stared at the phone for a few seconds before answering. "Yeah? Where are you?" "Where do you think?" "Come home." "No. Be serious," she said. "You can't just stay at Rory's forever." "Why not? Stepdad said I should." Then you know he didn't mean that." "He sure sounded like he did." "This isn't helping anything." "You know what would help? An apology." "I just want you to come home." "Then tell him to say sorry." She didn't answer. I hung up. By the second day, Rory started treating me like a roommate instead of a guest. "Dishes don't clean themselves," he said after lunch. "Neither do I." "Not how this works." "Fine." A few hours later, he made me go to the store with him. "Why do I have to come?" "Because you're eating my food," he said, "so you're helping carry it." That logic was hard to argue with. That night, my mom texted me, "Can we talk?" I ignored it. An hour later, she texted again, "I miss you." I stared at the message for a while before turning off my phone. The next day, Rory came back from work and dropped a paper bag in my lap. "What's this?" "Clothes. Figured you didn't bring much." "Where'd you get this?" "Thrift store." "You bought me used clothes? You want new ones? Get a job." Fair enough. That night, my mom called again. I let it ring. Then Rory's phone rang. He answered. "Yeah?" Pause. "He's fine." Pause. "No." Another pause. "Then that's your problem." He hung up. I looked at him. "What was that about?" "She wants you to come home." Big surprise. I told her it wasn't happening. "Thanks." "Don't mention it." The next morning, I woke up to a knock at the door. Rory opened it. My mom was standing there. She looked past him, straight at me. "Can we talk?" "We're talking." Then, "Can I come in?" I looked at Rory. He said, "Your call." "Fine." She walked in, looking around. "This is where you've been staying?" "Yep." "This isn't going to work." "Seems to be working fine." "You can't stay here forever." "Didn't say I would." "Then come home." "Not until he apologizes." "That's never going to happen." "Then neither is me coming home." She looked at Rory. "You're really letting this happen?" "Not my call." She turned back to me. "Please." I didn't say anything. "Fine, but don't expect me to keep coming here." "Didn't ask you to." She looked at Rory again. You're supposed to be the adult. Then maybe you should act like one. She didn't have a response for that. She left. I was in Rory's kitchen making a sandwich when his phone rang. I could hear it from the couch where he was sitting, flipping through a random magazine he probably didn't care about. He looked at the screen and groaned. Stepdick. He seriously thinks you'll pick up? Guess he's about to find out. He answered and put it on speaker. You need to stop filling his head with nonsense. I stopped mid-spread, holding the butter knife over my sandwich. Nice to hear from you too. I don't know what you've been telling him, my stepdad kept going, but he's disrespecting me in my own home, and I won't stand for it. I set the knife down and grabbed a chip from Rory's counter. Your home? That's funny. Didn't you kick me out? This isn't about me. Of course it isn't. It's about him learning his place. My place is away from you, I said. You think this is funny? Not at all. I think it's pathetic. You're acting like a child, and you're acting like a coward. Rory smirked. Glad we're all on the same page. Enough of this. If he's got something to say, he can say it to my face. I already did, I said. You just didn't like it. You're throwing a tantrum. Nah, I'm just waiting for you to grow a spine and apologize. And there it is. You've had your fun, but it's time to stop playing this game and come home. Oh, now you want me home? This has gone on long enough. No apology, though? More silence. Rory nudged my shoulder. Guess that's a no. Then we're done here. You think you can just stay there forever? Not forever, I said. Just as long as it takes. This is ridiculous. No, what's ridiculous is you thinking you can control this. I'm actually enjoying this. You're making a mistake. The only mistake was trusting you in the first place. Then he said something under his breath and hung up. Rory stretched his arms behind his head. That went well. Duh. Could have been worse. 2 days later, my mom called. I picked up this time. She sounded tired. Can we talk without you being difficult? Depends. I get that you're upset. Good start. But you're making this harder than it has to be. Oh, and how hard does it have to be? Just come home. No apology. You know how he is. Yep, I said, and I know how I am. Stop being stubborn. Stop making excuses. I heard something in the background. Then she said, fine, be like this, but don't expect me to keep chasing you. Wasn't planning on it. I hung up. Rory walked out of his room. That sounded productive? Super productive. That night, Rory's friend came over. Big guy, always smelled like motor oil and cheap cologne. He flopped onto the couch like he lived there. Kid still camping here? Yup. Gotta respect the dedication. You have no idea. It's not that deep, I said. Nah, man, it is. You're holding out longer than most adults I know. Guess that says more about them. Your stepdad's an idiot. Tell me something I don't know. What's your plan? Waiting him out? Bet you outlast him. Wouldn't surprise me. Guess we'll find out. A week passed, then another. Rory didn't say anything about how long I was staying. He just adjusted, started picking up extra groceries, throwing my laundry in with his, leaving an extra blanket on the couch at night without a word. It wasn't a big deal to him, it wasn't a big deal to me, but apparently it was a big deal to my mom. She called again. I let it go to voicemail, then she called Rory. He picked up, put it on speaker. You can't let him keep doing this, she said. He's not a hostage. He's being stubborn. He's standing his ground. This isn't normal. Rory looked at me. You think it's normal to kick your kid out because he wanted his brother to get a basic apology? I didn't kick him out. Stepdick did, and you let it happen. Then, he didn't mean it. Then he should have said that instead of doubling down. I said, you're making this impossible. Nope, you guys did that. Guess we're done here. She hung up. That night, Rory took me to his favorite bar. Not to drink, obviously, but because they had cheap food and a pool table in the back. Ever played? He asked, racking up the balls. Never. He grabbed a cue stick and handed it to me. Time to learn. I lined up a shot, completely missed. Rory laughed. Pathetic. Give me 5 minutes. He took his turn, sinking 2 in a row. You've got one. I lined up another shot, hit the cue ball too hard and it flew off the table. Rory lost it. Shut up. You're a disgrace. I pointed at the ball on the floor. Pick that up. Not a chance. I picked it up myself. By the end of the night, I finally sank a shot. Miracles do happen. I flipped him off. The next morning, I woke up to a text from my grandpa. Come over. We need to talk. I showed Rory. He nodded. Guess it's time. Let's get this over with. Grandpa's house was the same as always. The same old wooden porch, the same smell of coffee and newspaper inside, the same framed photos on the walls that hadn't moved in years. The only new thing was my stepdad sitting at the kitchen table, my mom next to him looking drained. Grandpa at the head of the table looking like he had better things to do. I sat down across from them. Rory leaned against the doorway, arms folded. Grandpa cleared his throat. This needs to end. Agreed. Stepdad didn't say anything. Grandpa looked at him. Well, I already said, then say it again. I'm sorry. For what? I asked. For assuming Rory stole from us. And, go on. And for banning you from seeing him. Almost there. And for kicking you out. Now was that so hard? He didn't answer. Grandpa looked satisfied. Good. Now we can move on. Sure. Moving on sounds great. Then I turned to my mom. But I'm still not coming home. What? I don't trust him. Are you serious? Dead serious. We fixed this. He fixed his words? That doesn't mean I forget what he did. Then you'll stay with Rory? For now. This is ridiculous. No, I said. This is the new normal. You're being unreasonable. You think I care? Guess we're done here. I looked at Rory. You good to go? He nodded. We walked out. Mom didn't stop us. Rory and I left Grandpa's house without looking back. In the car, he tapped the steering wheel. So you meant that? You're not going back? I stretched out in the passenger seat. Yep. All right. He didn't ask what my plan was. He just started driving. For the next week, things stayed the same. Mom called every few days. I ignored most of them. Rory didn't push me to answer, but he also didn't stop me from seeing when she texted. Then one night, I was sitting on the couch flipping through channels when my phone buzzed. Can we meet somewhere? Just us. I stared at the message. Rory looked over. Mom? I nodded. Your call, he said. I thought about it for a second. Then I typed back. Fine, tomorrow. The next day, I met her at a diner. She was already sitting at a booth when I walked in, hands wrapped around a cup of coffee. I sat down across from her. She looked me over. You look fine. Was I supposed to look bad? You know what I mean? The waitress came by and I ordered pancakes. Mom didn't say anything until the waitress walked away. Then, I don't want this to go on any longer. I poured syrup on my plate. Then fix it. I can't change what happened. I took a bite. Nope, but you can change what happens next. Come home. Not with him there. This is your house too. Didn't feel like it when I got kicked out. He apologized. You call that an apology? She hesitated. I get it. You'd rather keep the peace, but I'm not going to pretend things are fine just to make life easier for you. I don't want to lose you over. You didn't lose me. You just showed me where I stand. Thanks for breakfast. That's it? I pulled a couple of bills from my pocket and dropped them on the table. Yeah. Then I walked out. Back at Rory's, I threw myself onto the couch. He tossed me a soda. How'd it go? Same as always. He nodded like he expected that. Figured. Think she'll give up? Not a chance. A few days later, my grandpa called again. I put it on speaker. Your mom wants to talk. Then she should call me herself. She's scared you won't pick up. She's right. You sure about this? Yep. You always were a stubborn little shit. Runs in the family. Guess it does. Then he hung up. One night, Rory and I were watching some random show when someone knocked on the door. You expecting someone? Nope. I got up and opened it. Mom, can we talk? I stepped aside. She walked in looking around like she hadn't already seen the place. Rory stayed on the couch watching. I want you to come home. Already said no. She pressed her lips together. Then what do you want? What do you want? I just said, no, I cut in. Not what's easiest. Not what keeps everything quiet. What do you actually want? She hesitated. Good question. I want my son back. Then why'd you let him throw me out? I didn't. Yes, you did. Silence. Mom, you got one shot here. Choose your words wisely. She looked between us. Then finally, I was wrong. Rory's hand stilled. I didn't move. Say it again. I was wrong. About all of it. Took you long enough. I can't change what happened, but I can fix things with you. We'll see. That's fair. Want a drink? I should go. I hope you come home, but if you don't, I'll still be here. I didn't answer. She left. Later, Rory cracked open a beer. That was new. Yeah. You buying it? We'll see. Fair enough. And that was that. Thanks for watching. If you liked the story, hit subscribe. See you in the next one.